o'clock. I'd like to call this joint session to order. Can we please stand and say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll go around the table and the outers to introduce ourselves. Gail Lieber, Town of Drummond.
Ray Powell, Town of Drummond. Scott Adler, Granite County Commissioner.
Bill Slaughter, County Commissioner.
Mike Cahill, Executive Assistant to the Commission.
Dick Mata, Philipsburg.
Elena Gagliano, Philipsburg.
Emily Petrovsky, Peaburg Mail.
Dave Lee, Philipsburg.
Shelley Mitchell, the owner of Orioles Refining from Missoula.
Tim Allen, Drummond.
Dwayne Audit, Philipsburg Town Council.
Daniel Reddish, Mayor, Philipsburg. Derek Poole, Town Council, Philipsburg.
Jana McGill, I'm the attorney for Drummond.
Carrie McClure, Town of Drummond.
Monica Prince, Drummond Volunteer Ambulance Service.
Shay Schroeder, Headwaters RCMD. Eric Seidensticker with Headwaters.
Everybody sign in.
So if you haven't signed in, please do so by the end of the meeting for Mike's records. I appreciate it. So let's has everybody read the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been first and seconded. Any other discussion about it? All in favor, say aye please.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Economic development. We can start with Philipsburg.
Standard stuff, end of the summer, long summer. I guess the economic activity was pretty good. Things are winding down on that level. We'll get a bump during the Christmas season, of course. And then we're moving into our winter mode, which is making ice and hockey and those sorts of things. And, plugging along through the winter until next spring. There isn't anything specific that comes to mind for me right now, other than the year's turned out pretty well.
Good. How about the county commissioners?
Well, we've, same thing now that summer's been long, summer coming into winter. We got 2 new snowplow trucks. We got one last year and then we'll have
Did you sign it?
We'll be here in December, maybe first of January. Got 2 new blades with wings and adjustable front blades, so I think we're gonna be pretty well, hopefully we be caught up on ready for snowbound dollars and so I think we're sitting pretty good right now.
So the airport board's working on qualifying Philipsburg Airport for, they have enough tail numbers now to qualify for the federal dollars to maintain the airport. They're looking at 2022, somewhere in there before they'll actually get that money. But they're putting applications in for the grant money. They're meeting with federal and state airport people. We're trying to figure out, what part of the county match money and what would that be. It looks like that a 10% match is going to be required to several $1 million even, but the state assures us that they will come up with a match, pay our match. So we're trying to sort that out. The board's worked hard and we've got a good board. And so they just come and work with us at this point. But it's kind of exciting. I think he got a new vehicle, didn't he? Have you guys seen the new vehicle at the airport?
He put in for
one, okay. So, and he was pretty sure he was gonna get it. It's free.
Courtesy?
Courtesy at the time? Yeah.
People that use them.
So they go now and go to places where they need to go.
You have to.
So then you guys just add them to your insurance?
Yeah.
So, I reported last time, it was in the minutes about the federal good neighbor policy, and about the next week, we got a visit from the airport, or excuse me, from the Forest Service guy in charge who said, oh yeah, it's not what they say it is, the counties don't have a say. So we went back to Dan's office and they dispute that, so I guess we're in limbo right now, trying to find out, what part will the counties be able to play in forest management and the new forest plans. I'll give you this, Commissioner Hinkle is not gonna let this go by without, a fight and knowing exactly what our role is gonna be, so, it's still an exciting potential possibility to, cut a lot more timber, have a lot more local construction people working. So, stay tuned, we'll see how that works out.
So Drummond, we're kind of, I guess what I'll say, I'm trying to improve a little economic development with what we have. So I'm in the talks with Shirley's name, from Granite County Medical. Cornelius, yes, thank you. And we're gonna try to get a plan together. We had talked about this some time ago, about getting the bus down to Drummond to be able to take people up to Philipsburg to be able to shop, whether it's grocery shop or the pharmacy or whatever it is. So, just a really busy time of year. I talked to her today and our schedules were matching, so we're gonna try for the first of the year. But that way, people that may need to go to the food bank, they can utilize it that way, and then, depending on how that stuff works, how much time and whatnot, you never know, people could even go uptown for lunch or something like that, so, I think that is, that would be good. Other things I'll let, Headwaters are gonna chat a little bit tonight, with it, but I think there's some stuff developing for Drummond that, chat about. We did get a, $7,500 capital improvement, a grant monies for capital improvement, so, that will help in doing some things that we need to do, like South Main and that, get the ball rolling to be able to apply for some grants, so. Granite County update.
On the Flint Creek?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? It's a pretty bad deal. It's just, we're doing a lot of improvements that were being required by, we ran out of money on the dam. It's just, we put in gaving, we put bells, now we gotta do some more studies. And every time we turn around, it's just more money. FERC's just killing us. I mean, they're literally, they drained us. I don't know what we're gonna do. They keep saying that we can't do this, can't do that, but yet, we're in a bad situation here. This dam thing's really hurting.
So what's the alternative? Should you not be able to fulfill those regulations?
We're being a big old lawsuit.
They could take our license away. So, but there are other alternatives that we're working on. I mean, first of all, the project initially got $1 million years ago to keep up with the maintenance of the dam. And it's an old dam. It was an old dam when Granite County got it, but I think the safety things they've done, and of course we've probably done more in the last 2 or 3 years than ever. But we had new gates, like interior of the dam had to be replaced. We're 130 years old. We had the spillway, which they inspected and said it was fine, and then of course after the thing happened in California, they came back and inspected it and said, oh, we got a lot of work to do. And then we had the curve that you've seen maybe in front of the dam on the upstream side. that holds up the walls, retaining walls, that was totally, just, it was gone, rolled cement and rotted out. So we did most of that this year. So what Scott's talking about, there's construction things that we said absolutely, they're damn safety, they're everything. It's the studies, okay? We need to study about earthquakes, and we need to study about who gets wet if the dam breaks. Well, most of those studies, you can go pull off our wall, and certainly FERC's, and see them, they've been there before. But every time we turn around, it's, okay, now you're gonna study this, or we want a report on your dam safety, which we are, our DS coordinator's been doing a good job, and the one before her did an excellent job in putting this together. The sheriff's updated the E911 system so that it's state-of-the-art. And in fact, we're ahead of what FERC does. They won't do it on paper, and we don't do stuff on paper anymore.
Well, it's just like he's saying, though, I mean, it's come down to it, we got a thing the other day, now it's gonna be another $2,500. And on one of the last pages there, they want us to make the maps bigger. They can't seem to even make their
It's
own maps
nitpicky.
bigger.
So,
I mean, it's
wasn't when we had a national representative, did you guys not ask them about that? About like helping Danes or
Oh, we
Jane
sent
Forte or
letters.
all
We
of
sent
that?
letters to everybody, and they've sent letters to
They've sent?
FERC. And FERC's coming.
They're coming to visit us. I mean, we got them stirred up, we got their attention. And, yeah, and we're gonna have a public meeting, and we invite you to come. There is another alternative, and it's not to the point where we're ready to have a public meeting about it, but, we can take a look at our contract with Hydrodynamics and say, is there some way, it's real simple, we get 10% of the power, they get 90% of the power, okay? So let's say in a month, we're making $80,000, we get $8,000. They get, but we're buying the hydro equipment with that, okay? And in so many years, it'll belong to Granite County. So, when the previous commission did this, that was plenty of money, okay? And it was because FERC wasn't breathing down their throat. I mean, like Scott said, it's every month, it's something. And we do this thing called help me Mike, Part D, 12D. It's an inspection, they do an inspection, then they write all the stuff down that needs to be done, and it's huge. And we have to hire a engineer, which costs money, but we do that. And we went through, we completed the whole thing, turned it in, and we didn't hear from them for a year. For a year. In a year, they said, 6 months, you gotta get this done, 5 months, you gotta get this done, tomorrow you gotta do this. Well, if it's such an emergency, why does that take a year? So we're bitching about FERC, but here's the thing, they really are not playing fair. You can come and see the letters we wrote. The congressional delegation agrees with us that it's a bureaucratic deal, and anybody that produces power, that's the deal. If we didn't produce power, it would be the state, and we could work with them fine. So, 2 ways, we're pushing back, we're looking at our current contract with Hydrodynamics and how we could change that to maybe stretch it out longer, and we get more money for maintenance, blah, 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 blah. And we're working with our congressional delegations to get them back up. They are gonna come and visit us, so it should be interesting. We have from our engineer, every dime that we put in it and where it comes from is the Flint Creek project fund. And like Scott just said, it's empty, there's no money in it. And so this month we'll generate, like $7,000. And it goes in there, and if we don't spend that, then next month we'll have 14,000, you see what I'm saying, in that fund. And that's, they've depleted that fund, and it can't build fast enough for the more crap they want us to do.
And then they make us hire their certain people, like Dow, they make us hire them, and they're the only damn people, and they work for FERC, and so they just make us all. It's a bunch of shit, I'll tell you. It's
What does
bad.
FERC stand for?
FERC?
It's,
Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
Regulatory. But, they're located out of
Thank you.
Portland, and the people they send us to do dam investigations are good people. There's no, we're not having this like personal fight, okay? This is a policy fight. And we, you know, we want the public to be aware that at some point there's gonna be a public meeting, and we're gonna have to present some alternatives, just what Gail asked. And, we're trying to prepare those alternatives right now, figure out what those alternatives are. But seriously, this is nitpicky, petty stuff. They literally told us we had to hire, we couldn't go out for bid for a company to do a job, a study. We want the study done, you're gonna hire this company because they're the only ones who accept the information.
If you gotta send the stuff to them,
Yeah.
and then they tell you whether they'll accept their, whatever they say.
I have a question. To your knowledge, does there exist any appeal process in any of these mandates?
No, because what they are they're administrative rules. They're not they never went through Congress, okay? So that's actually one of the questions we're gonna say, okay, what's our appeal process? You know, to say, now, the minute we talk to them about, you know, this is just, come on.
Yeah.
They'll say, well, we'll push it back a couple of months, but you're eventually gonna do it, see what I'm saying? So we need to speak to them, we need to present the public some alternatives, we have some in mind, but we have to develop them first. We're frustrated but hopeful, and we're Montanans, you know, we're not necessarily gonna say, do what the federal government tries to run down our throat. Now, having said that, any damn safety project, Commissioner Adler before me and the commissioners before me and the current commissioner are gonna do, it's a dam. There's safety issues, and we fix them, okay? So don't worry about that. I mean, I think, the attitude of the commission is, you know, if it's public safety, you know, it gets fixed, and we have a track record to prove that. We have an excellent rapport with our engineer, who's been with us for quite a while now, and things are, he agrees with us, and he's helping us come up with alternatives.
So,
And we have it's coming up now on a 2-year deal. It's every 2 years you get a new person. So now this lady, she's gonna be gone, and then this new person come in, we don't have a clue what they're gonna say. It just keeps going on and on.
in other places in Montana, they've ran into these things to where those dams are no longer running, I guess, I wanna say.
They're different.
They're not producing power.
They're not producing power. So is that going to be something that may happen?
Well,
I think it's a little too early to, you know, what we wanna do is, you know, we could have we're having a public meeting, but we could sit there and say, here's our issues, what do you think, okay? But we've all agreed that until we have viable options to lay out to the public that we thoroughly research and know what they cost, right? Then we're not ready to lay out these options yet. But we will after we meet with Bert, and we
got a pretty big contract with hydrodynamics, so see, that's what's holding us, you know, on that contract with making power. If not, we can just say, hell with it, we ain't making no power, good. Ain't making no money, let's quit. But we can't.
I have another question.
Contract we're locked in on.
You mentioned earlier that you said FERC is coming.
Yep.
When are they gonna be here?
So
Do you know?
Mike?
Sometime in February.
Okay, after the first of the year.
Right.
And so we'll know, that'll all be
Absolutely.
noticed and
We'd love to
stuff.
have you come.
And when they're coming, these are your, does hydrodynamics, are they a part of that conversation in the same room?
They should be.
When that happens?
Invited.
Theoretically, that should happen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and do we, can we anticipate any federal people there in addition to FERC?
Yes.
Like the Danes?
Danes.
Yeah, anywhere.
Well, they're gonna be there,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, good.
Danes might not be, or Tess or not.
They'll be
themselves,
reps.
but
They're reps.
Certainly,
They've
right.
already said they will show up.
Okay, good.
Yeah. They've been really helpful and supportive.
We've been working on this, I mean, it's not just, we didn't just start on it, we've been trying to get everything in line.
So that $1 million that you referenced, that was the maintenance over the period of time, that's essentially gone
Yep.
now? Okay, that's, right.
Well, they went through a lot of expenditures to get to the point where they could
But it's gone.
produce power, but it's gone. Yeah. Boy, to do so, well.
I mean, that's.
I mean, so the construction, we didn't finish exactly, we thought we'd finish this year on the front side of the dam, but the deep part, so the road side, right to the highway, on the upstream side of the dam is not finished, but section about from here to the wall, but it's real deep water there, and they got into ice issues in the early winter, so what they did is they're gonna come back and finish that in August. And it's a huge break for us because the hydro dollars will build up so we can, you know, help pay it off. And we did get a grant, a sizable grant from the state of Montana. So, you know, we're gonna make it through, but boy, at the end of the day, there isn't gonna be any money in that fund. But we are gonna finish the dam safety, the dam construction, like we promised at the start. So.
Okay, so for Drummond, with our water tower, the last thing that we have done to date is a new switch. And Drummond has spent, it seems to be working well, and we've spent approximately $22,000 so far on that stuff. There's all the bills that we've paid, all the invoices. Cleanup efforts in Drummond are going well. You can visibly see where people have done that, and that's thanks to the county attorney and to the sheriff's office. We meet regularly and we email back and forth with each other. So we're in a phase right now where law enforcement is going to talk with a couple of people with it. There's a couple of houses that actually need to come down, buildings. That's going to take a little longer. But as I had said when this started, if we get this done by spring, I will be elated. Streetlights, we are getting our streetlights changed to LED, and this is new information for my council because I just got it today. We are 6 to 8 weeks out, so Mayor Reddish, if you want to do that, I would get started with it. And it's really, just because it's a 6 to 8 week period, they have to order the stuff. What you need to do is just have a streetlight district, and then they do the work of counting all of that stuff up and what it is that needs to be changed out. But they have been great to work with. They're finishing up in Deer Lodge, and then they will come over. They've ordered our stuff. We are having some generator problems out at the sewer lift station. It is a propane one, and we've had problems from day one with it. So we will discuss it at the meeting next Tuesday of whether or not to change over to diesel.
Have you talked to anybody yet, Dale?
Western states
Okay,
have.
I should talk to Mike Herzog, because we just got all that stuff, the rentals and stuff come back in now.
Sure, and they've been super.
I guess.
Yeah, they've been really, really good, and they actually go out and get 3 other bids for you.
Yeah, they're under that other part.
Yeah, so it's a good thing, so hopefully. Our heater went out in town hall. Yeah, I know, I'm just telling you this now. The other day, it's a heater in the main town hall, so there's one out in the bays where that is still working, and the one over in the American Legion Hall. So it's plenty warm in there. But we are working with a gentleman Josh Sessoms out of Missoula, and he's gonna have an estimate for you guys for next week.
If you need another one, call Lot. He's really good.
Actually, we had, so the old 911 building that it used to be the county's, you guys let us have it, and there's one down in there and it has some issues, so I asked him to give an estimate for both, and I think we'll be okay. The town is working with Action Inc. and the Kiwanis, as we have for many years. Action Inc. used to be called Human Resources. They're out of Butte, and they provide $400, and that money goes to the Kiwanis for the meals, the Christmas meals that they send out, so we're working with that. Also, I have some flyers with Action Inc. For the LEAP assistance, and it's got good information on there, and Connie Daniels will be down in Drummond actually next week to just hang out and see if anybody needs some of that assistance. So if you know anybody, let them know that. Also, today, Paul Babb sent me some stuff with Northwest Energy. You've heard on the news that they had bought one of the things at Cold Strip, Unit 4, I think it is, and there's a release of information there. So if you guys want any of that, you certainly can explain what it's doing. That's all I have. You're ready.
What about that? You want to talk about county plowing, is that right?
Oh, was that? Oh, county plowing, yeah, sorry, thank you.
I read your comment on the back, the thing on that, they're on 4 days now because there's not, the winter hasn't hit. As soon as winter hits, they're 5 days.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And mostly it was just for us, if we're gonna be around. So I put county plowing on there because I had thought that the county guys were only on 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that the road going up to the dump, I wish we could do more, but to say, oh, let's go all the way up the gulch, it's just too hard on our stuff.
And there's actually people that they're not really on call, but there is guys that are volunteering that, like, say, tomorrow, today's Thursday?
Wednesday.
Anyway, say that, okay, if tomorrow this storm rolls in, there's people that will work.
Good, so that stuff's covered.
All lined out.
Okay,
So
good.
Paul came to us and said, look, I didn't get a lot of stuff that he was busy with a lot of stuff in the summer. If the weather holds out, I'll get it done. Culverts, 9 million linear poles, stuff like that. So he said if I could stay on 410s, and so what we said to him was, okay, you're ready to go, your plows are, everybody's ready to go, we're gonna leave it up to you. So weather permitting, and like Scott said, boom, they're gonna go to 8s, and they know that. But he is getting a lot of things done that, he couldn't get it done this summer, that he wanted to get finished before.
Yeah, just mostly we want to make sure that we're, doing
And then
the
plus
good
we
neighbors
moved the
and,
grader down to Rock Creek, and it's sitting there ready to go, it's got the wing and stuff. I think we're really ready, I'm pretty happy with the way everything's ready, now we keep everything running.
sure. Yep, nope, that's all I wanted was actually talking about up the dump-way. Okay.
I think it was Brad or somebody went out, they had to take some sand out to somebody because they couldn't get out of there, they were hauling cows and couldn't get up out of there, so.
Okay.
All right. Our Public Works Department's doing great, just a great job lately. We just have done a tremendous amount of stuff in town. Put even more new water line in, got some new sewer line put in. Our prime directive over the last several months has been focusing on our sewer lagoons, which is a constant thing. We are under an administrative order and consent that's been going for several years. That was up this past October. We were able to sit down with the DEQ and hash out some tasks, if you will, to try to move forward on that. And over the last 12 to 6 months in particular, we were able to accomplish several things. So I went into negotiations with the DEQ over extension on the AOC. Initially, they were talking about a year. I was able to put together a pretty good presentation and packet for them, demonstrating what we've been able to accomplish and move that forward. So much so that they altered the AOC and they gave us a 5-year extension, which is a big deal for us. And so now, on this task order list that we need to do to improve the situation, right now we just recently we received a grant, a planning grant for sludge removal, which will be the next big step on our lagoons. And so we just released a advertisement for an RFP around the western part of the state for engineering firms to come in and give us a proposal on removal of sludge from our lagoons, which I'm hoping to accomplish by the end of next summer. That's a really, really big thing. And the next leg of that part is it's sort of a two-leg system here. The AOC was one, and then our discharge permit is coming up for renewal this spring, and that's also a very important thing. We have a very good discharge permit that allows us a lot of room to not discharge, for instance, for upwards of 2 to 3 months at a time. And in the past, the nature of the discharge permit was never really worked or used how it should have been. And now I've got a public works director that's really, really on it. And so I think we're going to be able to meet some of our requirements by working our discharge permit in a fashion that's never been done before, which won't cost us anything. So that's another thing I'm kind of excited about working that. We'll start that renewal process right after the first of the year, and hopefully that'll be finalized by March.
Is your guys' lagoon lined?
It's bentonite clay.
Okay.
There's not bentonite clay. That's the original, was built in 1960 essentially. There's 2 6-acre cells. They're facultative, non-aerated lagoons. But we had a series of tests done a year ago, this past June, a full panel of tests that the DEQ did for us and paid for it. And that test was about $50,000. They took care of that. That gave us a real baseline of what we needed to do to get them functioning correctly. And so we're moving in the right direction on that. It's a really big thing for us. And we have, in that process, we have attended to cross connections between our sanitary sewer system and our storm sewer system, which adds infiltration and affects the detention time and all that. And there's been some major stuff. For instance, there's a portion of town that had no storm sewer system in it up in Parkerville. So we did approximately 3 acres worth of old-fashioned ditching and culverts and turned that into the irrigation canal and took a project that would have been tens of thousands of dollars and did it for about $7,000. So we just went the old-fashioned route, and we were able to do that without an engineer and everything. That was a big impact on that infiltration. There was another infiltration point in town that encompassed the bank parking lot. That was another thing. We sat down with the bank and we figured out what they needed to do. They were really, really on it with us. We got that one taken care of, and so things are moving in the right direction on that front. We're gonna move forward with these guys, and hopefully by the end of next summer, we'll be at a point where we can seriously change the dynamic, and that's what I'm going for with this. So that's been the primary thing. We're also looking ultimately at, I'm interested in the streetlight thing, because 3 years ago, our streetlights were about $1,200 a month. They're $1,800 a month now. And it's just going up. So
yeah, if you just get, because I think it's going to start taking
we're
off.
really interested in that.
And they're so much brighter. I talked to the
Right.
mayor, and I can't remember. He said they're great. So
we also applied, or we are applying for Resource Advisory Committee grant to get some road work done up at Fredberg Dam, and so we can get better access into there for maintenance and rehabilitation, and also to mitigate fire danger. So that'll go in, and we'll find out about that on the 6th of January. So that's pretty much it, other than I'd like to invite everyone to Yule Night, which is this Friday. It starts at 5 o'clock, so you know, want to come up and walk around, that's always fun. So.
okay. Thank you. So, Headwaters, if you guys introduce yourselves and just give them a little spiel, that'd be great.
I'm Shay Schroeder. I'm the loan assistant. We do a lot of gap financing, so we partner with banks most of the time, and Granite County's in our region, and so we'd love to do projects if you guys know any new businesses. We also have the SBDC, which is a Small Business Development Center. They try to reach out and get within each community at least a couple times a year. I'll actually be in Philipsburg on February 12th, and I'll be trying to meet with the local banks there just to kind of give them my spiel and know what we're about. So if they get any projects coming through the door, if they can't do the full finance project, we can possibly help them and hopefully create some jobs along the way. Julie Jackshaw and Courtney Leffler will also be in Philipsburg in April on the 8th, and they'll do kind of like a pop-up shop, kind of do some small business development things like cash flows and like QuickBooks, whatever your guys' businesses need, just let us know and we can do those trainings.
What's your interest?
What?
What's your interest on your loans?
7%. It varies with market, but right now it's 7%. You guys have any other questions?
What's the status on the store?
We are working with them. I can't make any comments on that right now, but our future goal is to hopefully get a new business in that location that will fit the community's needs, and we'll be working closely with KLM as well.
So I'm Eric Seidensticker. I've just been at Headwaters for about 3 months. I hired on in September as the new Food and Ag Director. So out of House Bill 52 this past legislative session, we had the Food and Ag Center designation opportunity. We applied, we got it back. So it was gone from the region for about 2 years, and then we got it back. So I started, like I said, 3 months ago. So I appreciate coming to this meeting and just having both the towns and the county here so that we can just announce that we have that program back. So kind of like SBDC, the whole intent of the Food and Ag Network is to work with beef, barley producers, the traditional, what Montana's kind of known about, all the way to some new upstart businesses, like whether it's a brewery, a restaurant. Some of my counterparts across the state are working on cooperative grocery stores. So we're doing a lot of really cool things, and we have an 8-center network across the whole state. So it's myself and 7 other centers, and we just have a ton of experience. So working with me, and if I don't know an answer, I can call one of my colleagues across the state. So I'll leave a couple of business cards, but we're really happy to have that back. I'll be working closely with the loan department, like with Shay, Julie, SBDC. We'll just all be working in tandem. I'll be at some of those pop-up things. Even if somebody has an idea, just feel free to get a hold of us because we're there to help. So, and then secondly, the other thing I wanted to bring up is we just applied for an EPA Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund. We just submitted our application, I think it was last week. And basically, the Revolving Loan Fund will give us a new set of grant loan funds, basically, that we can help businesses that they own, like an old gas station, petroleum site, an old building on Main Street. We can work with for-profit. It can be a government, like the county owned a building or something like that. So it's a really powerful tool. We're going to be setting up kind of like a local lender training that's going to involve lenders from the region, real estate people that we can help them, navigate through working with some of those sites, whether it's an old gas station. We're going to have people from DEQ there. So we're really hoping we get that. I don't have an exact timeline on when we expect to hear from that, but it's going to be a real valuable resource to help us clean up some of these sites that DEQ has on their list and get business back into some of these buildings. So we'll keep everybody in the loop on that, but we're really hoping we get that. So just kind of that's what we've been doing, and just some of the new things we have with like my program and brownfields. But yeah, we're here as your guys' regional economic development. So
we still need to meet up about the greenhouse up here at the school. And we have it planted, and the stuff will go. I'm hoping. I haven't checked it for a little bit. I'm hoping that somebody has, been harvesting and bringing it to the school lunch program.
Perfect.
It works out great, and then we'll probably take some up to the food bank too. So if we can expand on that, that would be great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'll leave cards and I'm
Yep.
happy to talk about any of that stuff.
I'll probably, maybe you and I and the superintendent.
Perfect.
You know, maybe you could make a trip over, we could go over there or something.
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Anything else, any questions for Headwaters?
And feel free to reach out to us anytime. We have our website too, it's just headwatersrcnd.org. And we can help with just about anything from grant writing to business plans to even financing. So thanks for having us, guys.
Perfect, thank you, appreciate it. All right, Miss Shelley Mitchell, you are up.
Okay, now I can see everyone. Great. I want to thank Derek and the mayor of Philipsburg for inviting me tonight. So, I am the owner of Orioles Refining, e-waste processor in Missoula. We are a Class 2 recycling facility licensed by the DEQ in Montana. We actually we collect and process e-waste. The definition of recycling means that you take what has already been processed and make it into new material. So technically, nobody recycles e-waste in the state of Montana. We're all collectors and processors of e-waste. Processing means you dismantle it. And that's what we do with all the e-waste that comes in. It takes a lot of work, and it's time-consuming, but it is the safest way to keep our e-waste from polluting our environment. Last year, over 20,000 pounds of e-waste was dismantled and recycled locally at Axman's Recycling in Missoula. 20,000 pounds separated out of cast aluminum from steel to screws to copper to brass. Everything was just separated out. We take hard drives. A huge issue is destruction of hard drives of people's data. We dismantle the hard drive, we take it completely apart, we take the disk that holds the data, and that is what is destroyed. So we don't, the one thing that does go to the landfill, because it's the safest place for it, is the plastic. The plastic is fire retardant. If you burn that to waste to energy, it is extremely deadly. The toxins in there are horrific, and manufacturers do not have to tell us what is in that plastic, and they don't. So I could sell that plastic, but the chances are that that's going to be burnt at some point, and the safest place for it is the Missoula landfill, is to put it in a tomb. So that leaves us at 90% landfill free, which is the definition of zero waste. I started Oreos to give you an idea of why. I graduated from the university. I've been running my business for about 3 years. A year after graduating, I decided to start the recycling business. In my research of 10 years on e-waste, found that it's a really dirty, fraudulent business. A lot of things that are said aren't really that true. And I felt that we could actually do better. And so when I started my business, there was 4 things that were going to have to be a part of it. It was going to be about politics. It was going to have to be about the environment, and it was going to have to be set up with some morals and values, because our e-waste is toxic. Rainwater leaches out the chemicals. The things that are in our cell phones are the same things that are in the Berkeley PET. The same things that make people sick, we actually carry it with us every day in our back pocket. Rainwater can leach out those metals. It goes into our water, goes into our soil. And I felt that we could do better than what we've been doing. But having politics and environmental issues and morals and values in a business, not everyone's going to be happy with what I say. And that was just a chance that I was going to have to take. That it was time, I thought, for people to actually have some truth about our e-waste and what happens to it. And so it's been three long years. We do Missoula, the city of Missoula government's e-waste, Sanders County's e-waste events. Been doing them for 3 years. They just contracted again for another 3 years. So we have we've been doing a lot of really good stuff. One of the main issues that's been having is the exporting of our e-waste out of the state to a lot of the R2 facilities throughout the U.S. Orioles is not R2 certified. For the reason is that during my research, realized that R2 is a lot of greenwashing, and I didn't want my business to be about that. R2 certification allows U.S. recyclers to export illegally. And when we say export illegally, then they dump it. And they break international law, which then pollutes because people in other countries don't have the means to recycle. So a lot of it is just burnt in open fields. And again, I thought that we could do better than that. So I've chosen not to be R2 certified. My business exceeds the standards of R2 certification and exceeds e-stewardship certification as well. Because if it didn't, I doubt Missoula or Sanders County would use Orioles as their place for their e-waste, because they know it's going to be taken care of safely. So when someone calls up and says, hey, I have a computer tower, what are you going to do with it? What you're not going to hear is I'm not going to say, oh, I'm just going to send it to an R2. What you're going to hear is, oh, I dismantle it. I'm going to take out all the metals. I'm going to take it to the local scrapyard. And everything, except for the plastic, will be recycled, because most of it can be recycled locally if you take that time. And so that's what we've done. I do have well, I don't know if anyone has heard of a company in Seattle called Total Reclaim. Montana has used them in the past for e-waste events, and some businesses still use them. They recently have gotten caught exporting and are now the two CEOs are going to prison for 2 years. And for me, as a processor or quote-unquote recycler of e-waste, that was really hard to hear, and knowing that Montana's e-waste was a part of that. So again, it reinforces that having a more sustainable practice and what we do with it, and not throwing it into the landfill, not throwing it onto somebody else to take care of, because when we purchase our phone, it's my phone, until it doesn't suit me anymore, or it doesn't work and it doesn't fulfill my need, then somehow I don't have ownership anymore of what happens to it. And that's part of Oreos, is to get people to have more responsibility of when we buy our electronics, that we are responsible for what happens to it. So there had been some talk that possibly an e-waste event in Philipsburg, maybe this spring. And so I wanted to give you a little information on how an e-waste event works. There's a form from the DEQ that has to be filled out. Some of the questions on that form are a little, difficult to answer. They want certain things, but you fill it out, they approve it, you have your date and your time, and Orioles provide certain things, and the host provides certain things. We do charge for the e-waste event. Because in the past, e-waste events in Montana have been, they advertise as being free, but then they have some items there will be a charge for. And so people show up and they think the whole event is free, and then they leave really upset because they had to pay, and they weren't expecting to pay for certain items. And also taking money at an e-waste event is very chaotic. If I were to charge, you have to have someone there to man it. Sometimes people pull up in groups, and it gets really chaotic. So to kind of get rid of all of that, whoever the host is we charge $800. And that provides for me to attend the event. I supply 1 to 2 volunteers. There's free hard drive destruction. Normally, most recyclers charge $5 a hard drive. We don't charge. That's going to be included in that $800. We're not going to charge by the piece. So if 150 computer towers come in, that's 150 computer towers. We're not going to charge $7 each for them. That's included in the total $800. We have, pardon me?
800 for the county?
It would be it would really depend. If Philipsburg wanted to do one separate, then it would come from Philipsburg. But if the county, like say Sanders County does, they have a host for their whole county, then it would be, each event would be 800. So if you combined, say if Drummond wanted a separate one, then it would be separate. But if Philipsburg and Drummond, or even the county, wanted to host it themselves, it would be 800. That just covers my cost. That I make no money off of the e-waste events, because 91 computer towers, if I charge normal $7 for that, that's over $600 and some dollars. And if I charge $5 for a hard drive to be destroyed out of those 91 computer towers, I'm already looking at $1,100. So this is something for the community. And so one of the reasons that makes my business different is that we put the environment first, and we put the lives of people first over money. And we provide the service because, if one, it's the right thing to do. It's not going to be exported, and it doesn't harm our planet. But there are some things that the host would agree to. Supply 3 volunteers, 3 folding tables or sawhorses, so you can put planks across to be like tables, because everything is sorted on site, because there are certain things that we don't take, like CRTs. Those are the old televisions, old computer monitors. They have up to 8 pounds of lead. We don't take those. We don't take the fluorescent bulbs. And we don't take industrial printers at the event. Those are the big, huge ones. We do take them, but that is a whole separate issue. That's not part of the event. There would be, let's see what else. There would, some garbage services, because people show up with boxes of old stuff. And so when everything's dumped out, I don't recycle cardboard. I recycle e-waste. And a place to where if it rains or the sun's out, there's a canopy or something to be under, so everyone's not overheated or rained on. And payment is due 2 weeks prior to the event, because that is what that's what it costs me to put on the event, to coordinate and get everything together. And what money I make comes off of how fast I can scrap. So all in all, it's a service that we try to provide to keep the cost down and to be able to protect what we're doing and give people a chance to recycle. Some of the e-waste that they just normally, Missoula's, I think, the closest place, or it might be Butte. I don't think Butte has any e-waste recycling there. And it's just to kind of be of service. So we take a loss. Yes.
Is this what that's going to the recycling site? Is that what you're asking about? Something else?
No, that's
That's
totally
something
separate,
else.
that's conventional recycling. I put that on, I had some questions about it, that unrelated to this. That's fine. So I'm assuming you have an outline that is on hard copy that we
Yeah,
can put our hands on and look
Yeah,
at?
I can email you
you can
what
right.
what I agree to and then what the host agrees to.
Okay, and so
And that.
we'd kind of want to look at that,
Yeah.
obviously. For example, Sanders County does this.
Mhm.
And how many years have you done it with those folks?
Since I started.
So
3 years.
You've been doing that 3 years. And in the 3-year cycle, has the location remained the same?
Yes.
And is that in Thompson Falls?
Yes.
So you've got Sanders County, but it happens at the county seat in Thompson Falls.
It happens in Thompson Falls at the
Right.
transfer station.
So basically, if, for example, theoretically, if the county and the towns wanted to do this, we would pick a site that was amenable to the county and the towns, and it could perhaps be Philipsburg, or it could perhaps be Hall,
Yeah.
or somewhere like that, and
Yeah.
we would have that conversation between us, and then reach out to you.
Yeah.
That's sort of how that would look?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also to Sanders County, Kathy Collins, who's in charge of the recycling there, I told her I was coming tonight, and she said, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact her. Because I know one of the issues, because I get a lot of, well, we never done it this way before, is that payment is 2 weeks prior, because I don't charge a lot in just normal business. And if you follow any of the steel prices or aluminum prices, for a ton, for 2,000 pounds of scrap steel, in October was $10 a ton, and now it went up to 20. So to give you an idea, that would mean I would have to take apart 91 computer towers, and it takes me 5 minutes to degut one, to totally clean it out. That scrap steel, 91, is around a ton. Takes me 8 hours. 8 hours to make $20. Doesn't pay the bills. So this is, I forgo a lot of stuff, so to be able to do an e-waste event, to be able to keep the stuff out of our landfill, and to put it back into play. We also, by the way, received a scholarship from Aero, Sustainable Agriculture in Montana, taking lithium-ion batteries out of the laptops and refurbishing them, re-energizing them, and going to be using them as the storage for solar. And some of those batteries aren't totally up to par for the project, but I was able to still reuse them and make battery, like for your phones on the go. And this one actually I made and actually runs my heating vest, because I work outside a lot and I'm really cold, so I reuse the laptop batteries to heat my body. I was thinking when you said that the heater went out somewhere, I was like, oh no, I am fully loaded. This is summer, out here is winter. And realized that it's actually cheaper to heat the body than to heat the surrounding. And so the batteries that can't be used in the project still can be used to run other devices in the house. So we try to reuse some of the stuff in different ways, and not just totally dismantle, but we do take parts out and make other things with it that could possibly, hopefully, help other people in the future do other things. But yeah, that's our latest project of the batteries.
During our discussion, you had mentioned that a representative from DET showed up. Do you
Yes.
do anything to accommodate them, or?
You have to ask. It would probably be Dusty Johnson. She goes to the Sanders County e-waste events. She's one of the recycling specialists. She's really good. She knows what she's doing, and one of her goals is to help communities recycle and do it properly. And normally normally that, when you fill out the form to get the permit, a lot of times it does go through her, and you can call, and I can email and ask, once people know a date and a time they want to do it, if she would be there to help facilitate that.
Is there a cost to the permit from the DEQ?
No, that is free. And Dusty doesn't charge to show up either, because usually e-waste events are done on a Saturday, weekend, and most people are off. She doesn't, there's no charge for that.
Is there anything done to deal with the security of whatever data may be left on those machines or hard drives?
I ask that if you are a government agency, that there's still some responsibility. It is never ever good to have your recycler be the sole responsibility for your data. That's just not being that responsible if you do that. So I do ask that the government agencies remove their hard drives, because what ends up happening when people come in and there's, you have 150 computer towers, so then I have to go in and remove all of those. And my goal is to get the data destroyed is the first thing when I get back to the shop, is that data is destroyed. We do not refurbish. Now, we use like batteries and those little things to redo other stuff, but we do not refurbish. Refurbishing doesn't work in Montana, and I don't have the time for it. I go in and I dismantle, and I take everything apart. Hard drives are the first thing that get destroyed. And they do get scanned, and within 2 weeks after the e-waste event, whoever the contact person is gets the letter of destruction. So each gets scanned in. Sometimes the scanner doesn't pick up the serial number, it picks up the make or the model, but all of it gets scanned in, and that gets sent to one person. Because number one, data needs to be destroyed, and I don't have the time to mess with it being left out there. So yeah, that is like the biggest.
Question.
Sure.
Do you know what the School of Drummond is doing right now?
I don't that would probably be.
I know Philipsburg currently, what they do is they pull their hard drives out and they're just sticking them up on a shelf and they're just stacked up there. And then usually what they do is they take the towers and they put them in the basement until they have room in one, and then they throw them out.
Sure. That might, I'll talk with the superintendent and ask her that. They can, she can go with the superintendent up there.
Because Philipsburg basically just been stacking them and piling them up.
I'm sure they do, because I'm pretty sure that's what we do too.
We can take ours and throw them in the dump.
Yeah, no, I think it would be.
Making the guest cringe, Scott.
I think it would
Pause
be,
for the chorus.
worthwhile to do that. Obviously, try to if we coordinate something with the county, to.
I know that right now the school hasn't had any plans with their hard drives.
They come and take them.
Yeah. I'm sure,
They actually, the guys that we do service with, when we update, they do take them.
They do.
We don't just give
Yeah.
it shit.
So, and also too, a lot of some places have their own crusher in-house, like they'll take the cell phones and put them in, and so they bend the cell phones to break everything, thinking it's going to. One of the things that I've had to also tell the city of Missoula that I cannot take them if they are crushed, like bent, because then they become a bomb. The lithium-ion batteries can explode at any moment at that point, and that I can't take those. They would have to be transported in a very, very special case, because lithium-ion batteries, especially the polymer ones, you do not want to pop those. They can easily, very fast, reach 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And so when it comes to like the cell phones, when because they're usually the polymer, is set it back to factory. If nothing else, set it back, do a hard reset, because the phones are dismantled as well. Everything's taken apart. If you have an Apple, Apple is actually the easiest to do that and the most secure, because not that long ago, the federal government could not hack into Apple to get information off. So there's no need, especially for Apple, to destroy the entire phone if you set it back to factory, because it does erase everything. But the Androids do not, but for the time being, it is nice to be able to have them cleaned before getting them. It's another part of kind of being responsible for our own data, and so that helps secure that there isn't any issues that come up. We haven't had any, because I destroy the data. That's the first thing that happens. I do have some business cards and a few, kind of a half of a flyer of what I give to businesses that gives a little bit more about our sustainability and some of the normal charges. These would be the charges that if it was not an e-waste event that I charge people, but yeah.
All right, recycling site.
Okay, so now we're talking about something conventional like cardboard and newspapers, and we have the recycling bins behind the school there in town. And I guess I've had a couple people come in and ask me about them, thinking that the town managed them, and I've sent them up to the county. And one of the questions was, who empties them and how often? I guess they were full and overflowing. I guess on two different occasions people come in. I like to know about things when people ask me, so I was basically at a loss because I don't know the history or anything about that. And I was hoping. So is the county a player in that? I guess is my first question. Does the county have any?
He put them in there as a recycling, and he was taking it and recycling everything. County, he just used his site.
I see. Okay. So there's no. Okay. And that's.
And he was going to pick them up because that was a problem. I don't know if you brought it up or somebody else did.
He was there yesterday loading stuff up.
Was he?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
I don't know that he got it all, but he was there.
Okay, and I didn't hear who you said.
Robinson.
Robinson.
Disposal.
Right. Okay, that's right. Okay.
But he was going to have them picked up a long time ago because the recycling went to hell.
Right. Well, I will be really happy to impart that to anyone who wants to know. The assumption is that there's some government finger in this, and apparently there's not.
We'll take a look and see what he got.
Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't have any, I mean, here's the problem, everyone wants to recycle, nobody wants to
nowhere to
buy it,
Right.
nobody wants to take it,
Yeah.
and it's too bad, but our recycler, beauty, there's a mountain of glass about as tall as this building,
Right.
they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so this whole issue is, well, good, let's recycle, but I'm telling you right now, it's ended up in the landfill because nobody will buy it.
Yeah, and I understand, and that's been a problem nationwide.
Well, in cardboard, we're actually,
Okay.
it costs us about, it's probably break even, okay? As long as it's break even, then we'll take cardboard and try to get it to the recycler, but nobody's making any money on this, but it is keeping it out of the landfill, and it is bulky, and.
In fact, we hired local, her husband hauls it for us.
Yeah, he hauls it out of here for us.
There's not much in it. Well, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
Yeah. Okay. I just wasn't sure who was
It's a
overseeing
bad
that
deal,
stuff. So.
I don't think the public really understands.
Right.
There's
well,
nobody buying this
right.
stuff anymore.
Okay.
What about the dead animals? When we come up with that? Where are they being disposed of?
Where are they being recycled?
Yeah.
Well, I met with Karen.
What the ranchers want to do with them.
I met with Karen today, and she's talking to Dan Massey to see if he's still going to pick up animals here and take them over to Clearwater, and I don't know the answer to that. We worked all summer to try to get this thing relocated, but with a private rancher, it fell apart. Not that he didn't try, but he did, and he's actually going to start a recycling his own animals, and he was probably one of the biggest contributors, but he's gonna, he knows how to do it, and he's gonna do it. It's a little bit different, right? Yeah, a rancher. And then, so stay tuned, we'll tell you, but they're not coming here. We're done. And
that's
we're done
been done
because
for a
the
long
EPA was gonna
Well,
do
we had,
it, there was just
we
a lot
had
of
one
issues.
come in day before yesterday, 700 pounder, somebody brought it in and they dumped it in the dumpster.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen again.
So it's not done. If we just put up a whole bunch more new signs, yeah. So.
Okay. Anything else on
It's a good
recycling?
question.
All right, ambulance service. So I was not able to attend the meeting, so I was hoping that you guys could update me where you're at with that. I mean, I read the article in the Philipsburg paper, but if you guys could kind of update me, I would appreciate it.
Well, we've been having a lot of meetings with the Philipsburg ambulance, they were struggling with people that respond. And Patrick Little's come to see us and everything, and what we realized is that, wait a minute, there's a huge effect on the Drummond ambulance folks. So our last meeting, we made sure that we had representatives from Granite ambulance there as well, because we learned a lot, okay? There was some suggestions about, maybe hiring a coordinator, and, we just all had it on the table. And thank goodness the Drummond ambulance folks came, and we learned a lot. Patrick in Philipsburg actually went away to try to come up with some short-term and long-term solutions. We got that Tuesday, right, Mike, from him. The commission's looking at that and, trying to apply cost of what Patrick's suggestions were. His suggestions were, can you pay by the trip? Can you pay on call? And the answer is yeah, but it's a budgetary issue, and on top of that, the state provides the Good Samaritan, what do they call that, insurance? It's a Good Samaritan insurance, and they can only make about $2,000 a year. It's a calculation of their salary plus. So you really can't just pay them, or we're going to lose our status, or they're going to lose their status. And so it's just not as easy as paying for on-call. The other thing is that, as we found out, they don't do it for that. They do it as public servants, and they don't really want, they don't mind us helping us out with the safety equipment, and certainly the ambulances, things and equipment. But it's a struggle. It's not just in Montana, not just in Granite County, it's all over Montana. It's nationwide, finding people to volunteer. So, we're really happy with Pat. He went out, he gave us some options, and we'll get back with you guys and kind of see what you think about what he suggested.
So,
I gave letters to Jackie, and did she give you yours? And there's just a lot, it's a long ways down the road. I don't know, that's right now.
so when will you guys discuss the options in a commission meeting?
Well, we
probably.
kind of wait to hear back from them too.
Okay, so a couple weeks, like
Yeah,
after
it'll
the
be 2
first of the
weeks.
year?
Yeah, because these guys just got it today,
Yep.
yes, so I
Okay.
mean, there's.
Patrick is doing
about
a
it,
class
you get-
right now, so we're hoping that we can get, his first night he had 20 people, his second night he had 6. So if he can get 3 or 4 to get through the class, and then who can pass the test, this is not an easy test, okay? And then they have to recertify and keep their training. It's a big deal. And,
We had old
God
sheriff,
bless the princesses.
old sheriff come in yesterday, Emmett, he talked to us, or Tuesday, anyway, he talked to us about some stuff. But people are starting to come around and mention, they do this and that, but like he said, the way it's done this before, rolled up and around, and it's a tough deal, and thank God we have these people that do it. I mean, you don't know how much, I know you know how much we respect them.
Is the ambulance like the fire department where Drummond's is taxed, or is it all one? Philipsburg and Drummond is
No,
one?
we have ours.
You have
they
yours and
theirs.
Philipsburg has
Yeah.
theirs?
And
Okay.
unlike the fire, we're not a district.
You're not a
so
district.
Okay.
We are a volunteer service on our own, and they're a volunteer service on their own. And I just want to put this out there for you people from Philipsburg. These guys are donating a boatload of their time, and I know that being on an ambulance service is not for everybody. But you will lose them if you keep putting the burden all on them. So my point here is, they can't do it on their own. They need you to help them. I haven't spoken to any of these guys since we had our meeting, but I can tell you that for our ambulance service, we have over 100 runs a year. I volunteer for probably 60% of those. Partially because I don't have kids at home, thank God. Anyway, my kids are grown. I can leave my job. We own our own business. I don't work for somebody that I am locked into these hours, okay? We do miss quite a few runs in March through the end of April because we're calving. But these guys not only donate their time, so my point is, a run for us, we consider a minimum of 3 hours. So that's 180 hours out of my year just to take an ambulance run. That doesn't include the fact that I have to do training, that we have meetings, that we have training meetings. The amount of training meetings that these guys are putting on to get one ambulance service person is unfreaking real to me. I don't think you realize how much time they're volunteering. So if you get somebody who says, well, I volunteer to put on an event, I want that job. Because it's nothing that the hours that these guys are putting in. Nobody knows when they get called at 2 a.m. in the morning to show up, and they're gone for 3 hours, and then they get up at 6, and then they go back to work. Because by the time you get home at 5, you're not going to go to sleep for that hour anyway, so you've just lost that hour out of your day also. So all I'm saying is that when they're putting this time in, please put this out there to the people in Philipsburg that you need drivers, they need EMTs. And I know that being an EMT is not for everybody, because not everybody can handle the blood, and not everybody can handle the mental, and not everybody can handle that. It takes the right person. But there are people out there, you just have to find them to help these guys out. For an example, I was the only one available. Frank and I had plans with some friends of ours, but the roads were bad. Everybody else had kids, they were gone, whatever. There was 2 accidents. I called in and said, well, I can go, but I need somebody else. Nobody was available. Dispatch said, well, the fire department is having a meeting tonight. I said, all right, I'll handle that. So I called down to the fire hall, and I'm like, hey, I need a driver. We have about 7 of our firemen that have all done the CPR course for us. They've all done a backboarding. They all know how to load the gurney. They all know how to help us do whatever we need. I'm fully capable of handling it in the back of the ambulance. Theoretically by myself, I sure would like to have somebody with me sometimes, but you can handle it by yourself, but you need a competent driver. I called down and I'm like, hey, do I have a driver? And our fire chief said, yep, we'll have somebody available for you. Both of the calls got canceled. It wasn't a big deal. But even just having a driver to volunteer to say that they'll help.
Especially when you get called out, the roads are
What do we
really
have,
bad.
4 firemen now? 3? That roll on pretty much any ambulance call if they're around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably about 4 or 5.
So how that works for us is like, if we have an EMT, but we don't have a driver, then we call dispatch and say, can you call our firemen? Because we have a list of who our firemen are that will drive.
I think
All I'm saying to you guys is, please put the word out there. You will run these guys out overusing them. It will happen, I guarantee it. They can't handle it with their volunteering their time, mentally, or anything else. It takes the entire community to support it.
I can speak to that. I did Philipsburg for 4 years, 5 years, pretty much every run. My wife got sick, I ended up taking 2 years off, well, a year off. It's been 2 years since she passed. I want to get back into it, but it is not an easy task.
It's not, and
And
so,
Philipsburg's a small town. You're gonna end up with people in the back of that ambulance that you know very well.
you do.
Yeah, and that takes a lot too.
So what I'm hearing is essentially it's a personnel resource problem. You've got decent equipment, you've got a new place, all that's happening. You referenced 20 people, 6 people the next day.
The
So,
next meeting,
yeah, right, so there's an
We'll be
attrition
lucky.
rate that's pretty high here, obviously, correct?
We'll be lucky to get 1 or 2
Out
licensed
of
EMTs
a couple of dozen
22
who initially inquired.
started that class. And thank you for everything you said. To me, the crux of the problem is we need more people, more EMTs, so anyone you know that might be interested, we do a training once a year, there's some other trainings out there. If we can get
It's
more
not
EMTs,
easy.
that would
No, it's not.
be the ideal fix.
Okay. Just because I know my mom was on it for many, many years, and, I mean, I know these guys have gone down to, I don't know, 4 people sometimes.
Yeah.
And in years
Probably.
past, because my dad was on it, and her mom was on it, it was like Drummond had a good crew, and then Philipsburg didn't have a good crew, and then Philipsburg had a good crew, and Drummond didn't have a good
It
crew.
does, it goes in cycles, so don't give up.
And we have a lot of retirees, and we're down to about
Sure,
4 or 5 people that are actively responding, so
yeah.
the more we have, the better we'll be at responding, as much as we're all trying
Sure,
within our work and life schedules.
yeah.
Certainly, there's logistics in terms of someone gets a call and they're at work. Perhaps they're not 2 blocks away from where they need to be, they might be an hour. They might work an hour from the, right, I mean, that occurs.
Yep.
So,
Very
yeah,
much so.
yeah.
So does anybody know what other counties are doing? Like Powell?
They just ran a mill levy for an ambulance crew, 11 mil, and they ended up with $252,000, and they're $100,000 short. It was in the paper.
In the
They're
Philipsburg?
struggling too. They're just-
And
And the
Northern Pal
DLG.
wants to pull out of that because they're not getting any service out of it.
Right.
Exactly.
The other thing is that I know that it's been put out there to let's put a QRU here and a QRU there. That does not fix your problem because a QRU is a quick response unit. They do not transport. So if you don't have transport, if you don't have somebody at the main ambulance shed to transport, you've just destroyed your whole theory about having a QRU unit. You just as well have an EMT with a jump bag standing there because they're going to have just as many tools as a QRU unit, honestly. You have to have transport and as far as other counties across the state of Montana, when one rural county fixes it, every county will follow. But there is not one single county out there that has fixed this problem. They tax people more and still don't have the problem fixed.
That's what's-
Powell County themselves cannot back up their program.
What about the hospitals? Are the hospitals involved at all?
It's volunteer. It's
Pardon?
It's all volunteer.
It's a volunteer service, and until your hospital can pay for itself, there's no point in giving them volunteer service money.
And if you really check into it, I've looked into those, to some of that, if you think about it, St. Pat's doesn't have an ambulance service.
Nope.
Because the regulations are way too high.
Well, it just seems that you got
Oh,
St.
people,
Pat's does have one ambulance, but it's their critical
Right, it's
Right.
a critical.
response. Yeah,
Right.
it's not, it doesn't go on,
I think
Right.
that their ambulance runs from hospital to hospital.
that could be,
I
yeah.
don't think their ambulance runs
Yeah.
on an emergency call.
Right, correct, yeah.
And St. Pat's doesn't contract their ambulance service out. Messi delivers to whichever hospital the patient wants to go to. If the patient wants to go to St. Pat's, they go to St. Pat's. If they want to go to community, they go to community. Or if they're closer to one and the patient doesn't choose, they go to that one. The rules that what we fall under is we take our patients to St. Pat's Hospital because they are a level 2 trauma care unit and the majority of our cases are trauma cases.
From the interstate, right?
from the interstate. Medical cases, most of the people from this end of the county want to go to St. Pat's or a community because that's where their doctors are. So we, as a service, transport to our patient's choice of where they want to go. And that's how it is across the state of Montana. Those are the rules that all ambulance services fall under.
When you reference Messi, is that what you said?
Yes, Missoula Emergency Services Incorporated.
Okay, and they are a private contractor?
They are.
Contracted to the county?
Nope,
To the?
nope, they aren't contracted to anybody, but they're based out of Missoula.
Okay, and
So
so.
they take all of Missoula's critical
Okay, and who pays that?
insurance
That's-
companies.
okay, that's what
They
I-
build themselves.
That's
They-
what I wanna know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
That's
just
close
like
circle.
the Philipsburg ambulance and the Drummond ambulance, we all do our own billing.
Gotcha,
The county doesn't do our billing.
okay.
Our billing is done from Soulstone. Ours is. I don't know where Philipsburg's is. I think it's, yeah, I don't know.
Jamie handles it.
Yeah.
We do appreciate you guys, seriously. I mean, big time.
Well, I think the only upside of this whole thing really, since is we have a community conversation, okay? So please help this conversation along. You know, we learn so much about, and sometimes when you have a problem, that's when you learn. And, you know, so any way you can keep this conversation going, because I think it's gonna be one of those things we just have to stay, vigilant about. And say thank you.
I think you really need
please.
to make your community aware that the ambulance is struggling. I mean, we're privileged, we have 8 licensed EMTs, and all 8 of them have taken multiple runs in the last 2 months for us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
Robert.
Septic dumping at Drummond and Philipsburg. I got an email, I believe, thank you. I believe that Mayor Reddish did also, from the county attorney, wanting to have a conversation maybe with the commission about them being able to dump into our systems. You know, I think for me, I wrote down 3 questions. The volume to be dumped. Is it, how concentrated is it gonna be? Is it just gonna be raw sewage? And the frequency, monthly, weekly.
Guess that, the one question and answer is just when the septic tank's back up, it's just the septic getting sucked out and clean, so you know, it's kinda hard to tell.
Sure, but if you think about it, so there's probably 2,000 people on sewer systems in Granite County.
Yep.
And the rest is septic. And even in Drummond, on the other side of I-90, everybody up the gulch is on septic. So that is something, we started this conversation months ago about, you know, what we can do. But if we can get those questions answered, then we can take it to our engineers, Drummond can, and then we maybe we'll have an answer. I don't want to say no, I don't want to say yes, because quite frankly, as you heard Mayor Reddish talking about DEQ and being backulative lagoons is a way different thing than being mechanical.
We inquired about it, and they, under their administrative order, there's just no way we can accommodate it. And this is a tri-county problem right now. It's something, yeah.
Well, so most of the contractors that aren't in this county,
Right.
okay? So, they were taking, waste from here into another county. And those 3 counties have said, no, you can take, waste from our county, but you can't bring in outside waste. So that's how this conversation got started. So, yeah, good things. We'll try to get you some information. We're gonna have to meet with those folks. We haven't done it. What we've been told is, figure something out, because if people in Granite County wanna dump their waste, it's not going to Deer Lodge and it's not going to Powell. So, and the other thing, you know, I think we could, at some point, but we'll give you a heads up, we're gonna tell them straight up, hey, you're gonna pay for this. Okay?
Well, they have to.
Exactly, and so when you get your questions answered, I think you should sit down. And nobody expects this to be free. The last time I had my septic system, it was $350, which I thought was pretty good, right? So it's $450 or whatever it is. What are you gonna do? You're gonna pay it, okay? So just so you know, we're not asking. We want to make sure that we put that in there.
We don't know how when they stop it or how they roll it through there.
Right. Well,
I
and
mean,
for,
that's something Chad Linus would have to step up and help out.
well,
with,
and for us, I mean, we have two pumps that we have to replace every 7 years. They're $10,000 a piece, and that doesn't count maintenance and, you know, all of that. I mean, actually, Drummond, our system is in very good shape. But there's a reason why Drummond doesn't have an RV dumping station, because that is major problems with, you know, chemical and, you know, all of that kind of stuff that is,
There's been 3 ranchers that have actually said that they probably take the raw sewage on there.
sure. And I mean, that is common. I know there was one gal that called me about it, and I said, no, we cannot do that. And they actually had it dumped on their own land. And they, you know, I don't know what not our stuff, you know.
It used to be acceptable, okay, but I think more and more people are saying no to that. You know, we want to get ahead of this thing because they're going to be folks that are going to need to empty their sewer system.
Sure.
And I think it's important for us to get ahead of that. You know, and even if it works out, Gail, that you can't do it, you know, at least that's an answer. So
Sure.
we're going to start looking for another answer.
Yeah.
We gotta, you know, we haven't really talked a lot to Chad, like he was supposed to bring some stuff back to us, and we haven't. I mean, it'll be on the agenda again, but it's, right now, it's, you know, so you really can't answer nothing.
Sure.
I don't wanna say nothing.
Right, well, and obviously, I mean, it's gonna take a lot longer for us to.
I know Kalispell set up their mechanical plant to take sewage from different locations. And I know the Forest Service on the campfires, that was all being hauled to, I think, Butte's mechanical plant, to where they had the facilities to process it. But I know there was a pretty steep fee involved with that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, I mean, we're just starting on this, so it's gonna be.
Yep, okay.
Try to get you them answers.
Yeah, that, I
We'll have
mean,
you come
until,
up and meet with us and figure out, have Chad there so he can answer some of that stuff, because that's his perspective.
sure, yeah. I mean, with us having a single cell lagoon, you know, I mean, we'll just have to see how that goes. So, public comment. Yeah, here's Dick.
Hi, Dick Mata. I wanted to comment on the dam problems that you're having up there with that. When I read the original contract on that, it was supposed to be somewhat of a lease arrangement. Under any lease arrangement, the county isn't supposed to experience any cost. The lessor is the one that incurs the cost. When it first went up there, Ben Singer is the one that did the maintenance study on that. He dove down into the dam to find out what the extent of the repairs were going to be. He indicated that they would be minimal, and I think the rest of the negotiations went on that basis. Essentially, they were supposed to pick up all of the maintenance and costs for the engineering and the insurance, and that's just evolved into the point where the county started picking up the cost. They were initially looking at 10%, which they estimated to be $550,000 in electric generation revenue. 10% of that would have been the $55,000. As the contract evolved, it got to the point where the county started saying they were gonna pick up these costs, or they got intimidated into it on the assumption that it was gonna be minimal. When it started out, you were looking at $22,000 for insurance, $28,000 for engineering, and another $6,000-7,000 for the maintenance man. That comes out to the $55,000 which you anticipated, or they anticipated that you'd receive for the dam. So I think if you go under this current contract and the terms of that, there's absolutely no way that you're going to ever make that a break-even point or operate it on the basis of minimal repairs. You're going to have ongoing repairs. We've got studies out there from 5 or 6 agencies, federal and state, that cost anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 a piece. So you're just not going to have the money. All of the money has already been spent on the repair and modifications to that dam, and like you said, you're out of funds. Well, you're going to continue to be out of funds, and you're going to start looking to the taxpayers to reimburse you for that. And under my understanding of a lease agreement, again, there should be no cost to the county. I think that the reason that you have for that is that Ben Singer's engineering evaluation of the dam. Costs were going to be minimal, modifications were going to be minimal, and therefore we should proceed. The negotiations got so convoluted after that it was hard to follow, and I can't say as I received any additional copies of additional drafts for the contract. But it's to the point that it is now, I think, basically because of the misrepresentation on the part of Singer, who is an employee of the hydroelectric plant. So if you're going to do anything on this, you have to change that contract, and the contract has to be such that they pay all of the expenses, which is what they were originally intended to do. And I wouldn't be surprised that you could probably imply that they should have paid for all of the modifications that have been done since its original construction. So that's the only out that I can think of. Why you signed the contract is beyond me, but again, I think it's based on the misrepresentations from Ben Singer, the engineer from Hydroelectric.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, I'll call for an adjourn.
Wait, next meeting.
Going back with the dam, you said that there was a letter sent to the hydroelectric operator.
He got the same letter as it went to FERC. Everybody got that letter.
I thought there was a letter that was sent, what was it,
I think what
to meet?
There's a conversation about, we've talked to hydroelectric unofficially. He wanted to meet with the commissioner, I brought that back to the commission, and they were not comfortable, which I agree with, and I wasn't comfortable doing it. So instead of that, we've sent him a letter to say, no, we're going to do this up front in public, and we'd certainly like to have you come in and talk about just what Dick talked about. Is there any possibility of modifying the contract? And if there's any possibility, then we could start entering in negotiations. Well, we did. Have you sent that letter yet? Yeah, so the letter did go out. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it went out, but I didn't notice any reply date on it. It's like whenever you're ready you're gonna come.
No, he's gonna reply. I mean, one good thing about talking to him one-on-one is I think that, I don't know what his issues were, but they're not, I think it's somebody we can work with. And so let's be hopeful and try to look at it as, a good business thing for him and what's good public policy for us. So we'll keep you up on what we're doing.
And one other thing is the meeting that you had this past Tuesday about the CSKT compact
Yes, ma'am.
and the legislation that Danes is introducing. I think there's got to be more discussion about it because it's going to affect every single one of you. Every one of you. And you don't have to worry about your water because you won't have water rights and you won't have property rights either. That's how bad and how big this thing is. And the attitude being, well, it's only on the reservation and it doesn't affect us. Well, it is going to affect you. Everyone.
I will say Bill's been really on it, there's a lot been going on that, so it ain't like we're not trying.
The bill got dropped today, and I do have a copy. And it's pretty complicated, as you might imagine. But what Senator Daines has been doing is try to get modify the compact. As you recall, it's at the congressional level right now, and Tester had a bill, but he never it sat there inactive for 2 years. Senator Dane got involved, mostly because of people like you and others and the People's Compact people and the Granite County Commission were saying, hey, there's off-reservation waters here in this compact that affect all of us, just like Elena said. I mean, they're big deals. They're how you run your city, okay, and who you pay for water from. So the bill, I'll say this, his press release says that the bill he dropped got the tribes to relinquish 97% of the off-reservation water claims. Now, there's still a percentage in there with the Fish and Game that they own with the Fish and Game. It's a little more complicated than that. But go online, take a look at Daines's bill. We'll probably send something out, put it together, and have it available, probably bring it up on the website. It's a pretty significant piece of legislation. So we'll try to get the summary up at least. But you're absolutely right. It's a big deal. The off-reservation waters are Flint Creek Valley, the Flint Creek Drainage, the Clark Fork River. So it's a big deal. So.
Any other public comment? Thank you. Next meeting will be 3/11/2020 in Philipsburg. With that, an adjournment, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Pass the time.
I tried. I should get better.
That's the public.
Do it enough, right? The hope is you improve.
And that was the meeting.
What's up, Roger?